Hello, everyone. This is Recruit Jimenez, otherwise known as Maximo, which is my first name. We are going to be doing a drawing lesson of sorts. It's going to be along the lines of learning how to draw a couple three-dimensional shapes that are pretty basic, like geometric shapes that are easy to shade on. Because the main goal of the lesson will be about shading. So we're going to learn some geometric shapes for the purpose of doing some shading on them. Determining a light source will help as well, and then shading a sphere will be kind of the end of the lesson, because shading a sphere requires a little bit more finesse in your shading. And then also I could potentially go into cross-hatching, stippling, different sort of shading techniques other than just kind of scratching around on the paper. But yeah, so we should just hop right in here. So first we're going to draw a cube, and a cube is pretty simple. You just want to do a square, if I can make my line straight, but a square, and then 3 diagonal lines coming off of it. I kind of goofed that one up, but that's okay. Then you do that. And the square doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for the purposes of getting some shading done to help us understand where things go. So you do your cube, and then determine a light source. So for me, I want my light source to be coming right in front of it. So it's going to be coming diagonally along that line there. So it's going to have an arrow as signified by that. And so the light is coming at this cube. So what we're going to want to do is determine, based on where that light would be, where do you think the dark spots would end up on this cube? So there's that pretty simple little shading right there. And then we can move on to a cylinder. So cylinder is just going to be 2 vertical lines and a crescent at the bottom, or a sort of semicircle arc, if you will. And then parallel to that arc, you want another one up here. So it should be the same arc on top and bottom. And then you want to follow that around and close that arc. So now you have a cylinder. So let's say the light is coming from the same place, just straight, head on, kind of like we did before. There we go. So now it's striking right here on this cylinder. So that's going to be our lightest point. So that would mean that the points around it are going to be darker. So it's going to be darkest to the left and darkest to the right over here. However, it's not directly in the center, so it's going to be a little lighter here than it will be here. So we're going to darken this up.
When shading, always apply more pressure to darken and less pressure to lighten. Apply less graphite than you think you need. You can always go back over it and darken up spots if the drawing looks too bright. The goal is to get a seamless fade from darkest to lightest, the lightest portion of the drawing being completely untouched by pencil. Those spots are called highlights.
There we go. Darken that up just a little bit more. And then the top, we got to take care of that. So because the light is hitting on this face here, it stands to reason that it would not be hitting up here. It's going to be a lot darker up here than even probably on the left-hand side here, because it's not in the sun, or it's not in the light pretty much at all, just in this sort of indirect light. So we're going to darken it up here too. looks good to me. Okay, so let's move on. Now we're gonna do a sphere. So a sphere is probably the hardest. Easiest to draw, you just have to draw a circle, but that means the shading really has to carry this drawing because you really can't tell where, you know, what the dimensions of the sphere are in a sort of two-dimensional sense. So if you just do a circle as best you can. Mine might come out a little trash, but okay. Yeah, so. Anyways, let's say the light on this one is coming from up here and impacting right around there. So that's the light. It's sort of forwards and sort of like this. Like forwards and up a little bit. It's kind of hard to illustrate that without doing some more sort of artwork to make on that arrow, but for right now that's how it's going to look. So if the lightest part of this whole drawing is going to be right here, then the darkest part is going to be the furthest part away. So furthest part away is back here. As the sphere rounds, it hides more and more of itself from the light. So we're going to start darkening up this backside.
So as you watch me shade the sphere, you might notice that I touch the drawing with my finger. That technique is called smudging. It helps eliminate visible pencil marks from shading and makes the transition from light colors and dark colors look smoother. It kind of just brings it all together. Only thing is, smudging has the potential to blur outlines and make your drawing look flatter by kind of reducing the separation of values. So you have to use it deliberately and carefully.
Now if we erase this, erase that line, it should look like a sphere. Yeah, so, or at least a bit of a lumpy sphere, but you can tell that it is not two-dimensional, and that's all you really want to illustrate.
Here I go into a couple of different techniques for shading. So we have cross-hatching as the first one, and then it's going to be stippling as the second one. Cross-hatching is just vertical horizontal lines that create that sort of depth and value. Stippling is just dots. So there's a bunch of different ways to do this. It doesn't just have to be scratching it into the page. If you want to continue pursuing art, I would say the best thing you can do, other than just like watching tutorials and stuff, is to use references, draw from references, use photographs, use materials that you find online, just to sort of like hone the technical aspects of it. Also, drawing anatomical drawings is one of the best things you can do for shading. It helps you just really determine value in like its most complex form. Geometric shapes are a lot easier than shading bodies, than shading like smooth surfaces. So yeah, anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.